Good Wednesday morning. Today I am recording and relaunching my podcast. And the title was downloaded in my spirit yesterday as I was working on my information for Saturday's live video. Ooh, it's gonna be yummy. And these words were downloaded in my spirit. All Things Healing. So this is the All Things Healing podcast. And on Monday, I believe it was Monday, I was watching the documentary of Kirk Franklin and how he just met his father at age 53. And it just reminded me of some memories of my childhood. So growing up, I didn't meet my father until I was 13. And when I met my father, he was in prison. And I had so many big hopes and expectations of what our relationship was going to look like and be like, from him being in prison to getting out of prison. I just had all these hopes and dreams and desires, and they did not turn out the way that I expected. And I thought about how long that journey was. I didn't even realize I was on this journey of forgiveness, just kind of discovering who I was. And it led me to believe that I had to do all these extra things to be seen and not left and not rejected and not abandoned, because I felt all those things with my father. And it was totally not the story. It was the story I was telling myself. That was not the truth. That was what I was telling myself. And sometimes we tend to do that when we don't have all of the information. We try to make it up just to make ourselves feel, I need to have this right here so I can feel this way. You know, because my little girl, she needed answers. This is a picture of me, podcast. Y'all can't see this. This is a picture of me I'm holding up as a little girl. And I created these stories in my head of why my father, wasn't there. He didn't care. And I just made all these things up. And then I began to operate from these stories that I had created in my head. So I made terrible choices when it came to relationships. I did that for decades. And it wasn't until my 40s until I got to a point when I'm like, you know what? I don't want to keep doing that. Like, this is a cycle. This is a pattern, and nothing changes if nothing changes, right? So I had to trace it back to childhood. And I never forget, a coach took me to a place inside of myself. I couldn't go by myself. You see, when we have these experiences, we cannot heal ourselves. We need help, because although it took time to get there, right? We tied these knots. We need help untying them, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And so I began to, after that coaching session, I said, I want to be able to do this for somebody else. So I went through the different trainings and certifications to become a certified coach, transformational results coach. And it was so, oh my goodness, it was so uncomfortable. The thing about healing, it's so uncomfortable. It feels like you're having the same conversation over and over again, because things are going to constantly come up. And when they come up, you must let them out. They're not yours to keep. And so as I'm watching this documentary, he meets his father, and it's so, you know it's emotional, right? And then he has a conversation with his mother, his birth mother, because his aunt raised him. She adopted him. Maybe a cousin or aunt raised him. She adopted him. And he wanted to have a conversation with his mother, because he found out through a childhood friend, that this man could be his father. So they got a DNA test done. Sure enough, he was his father. And he was trying to have a conversation with his mother. His mother was not having it. So she wanted a second DNA, got a second DNA. The second DNA said the same thing. And she was like, I cannot accept it. I reject the DNA. And it was so sad, because it's like he gained a parent and he lost a parent, because he could not, he wanted truth from his mom, and she couldn't give him that. And so it just brought up so many emotions, just watching this. And then, what the part that really got me was when him and his son had this, they had a very terrible, I would say terrible relationship. But nevertheless, he called his son. He wanted to tell him something. So he couldn't even get it out. He had to show him the video of him meeting his father. His son was like, oh my God. And they literally cried and embraced one another. And they sat down on the floor and he just held him. And there's so many things that he couldn't do because that part of him was missing. And I could so relate to that, because when you don't know where you come from, it feels like it feels empty. It's like, I want to know that part. I want to know that piece. Like, what is that? That's like a missing piece to a puzzle. And there's certain things that you don't know how to do. Like he said, I didn't know how to love my wife. I didn't know how to love my wife correctly. I didn't know how to love correctly. I didn't know how to do certain things because of this missing piece. And these relationships can have a huge effect on our lives, but we don't even realize it. And so I say all that to say this: there are things that I experienced that I just didn't understand, especially when it came to relationships, because what I saw growing up was not an example of healthy relationships. So I pretty much mimic what I saw, not beating anybody up, but this is my experience. I saw this, so I did that. And you could tell your children all day long, don't do this and don't do that. And then you do it. And it's like, well, yeah, they doing it. I don't understand. And they'll end up doing what you do. So it's important. And I heard something yesterday, and the man asked him, well, how do you raise self-aware? I think it's self-aware children. And he said, you become self-aware. Like, you got to do your work. So they don't have to go get therapy and counseling for having you as a parent, right? You do your work. So they can see a healthy way to be in relationships, a healthy way to manage money, a healthy way to have friendships. A lot of stuff, like, we got to do our work. We must do our work. And this is not a beat me up session. This is just an awareness, right? We have to do our work. We have to be the example, because I'm telling you, they're always watching, and it's never too late. Even if they're young adults, it's never too late. My children are my children. I have young adults, 25 and 21. And so there are things that I showed them that were not right. I didn't know that at the time. I did the best I could with the information I had at the time. So I had to forgive myself. And I have to be that example today. It's never too late to start today, to be that example today, to get healing today, to go to therapy today. It's never too late. It's never too late to get back on track. Okay. So I just wanted to talk about that, because this is the All Things Healing podcast. And these conversations are to bring awareness. And the first step of healing is to bring awareness to those things that you may not been aware of. And so the first step is awareness. And then you get to check in and, like, what parts of me have I been neglecting or overlooking? What are my kids doing that I taught them that I want to teach them something different? So just check in with that, see what that looks like. Maybe you have to journal and see what comes up for you. Process that, and then have a conversation. Hey, I know I told you this. I know I've been doing this, but I was so wrong. This is a better way to do it. Okay? It's never too late. It's never too late to get it right. So I am complete. I hope you have an amazing Wednesday on purpose. All things healing. It starts with us.